the brand, marketing your mission for improved fundraising and community support. Today we'll learn why and how to spend less energy promoting the market as just a great place to shop and more energy marketing your mission. A Friends of the Market organization or program can help communicate the work that makes the market possible, but even small adjustments to your marketing communications can help you generate more donations, sponsorships, and volunteers. We'll also learn from an example of the Big River Economic Agricultural Development Alliance's successful tabletops fundraiser. I'm Colleen Newvine, your moderator for today. I own Newvine Growing, a marketing consulting firm with an emphasis on farms, farmers markets, and farm-to-table restaurants. Today's webinar is one in a series presented by the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture and the Farmers Market Coalition. These webinars are supported by the USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program with the goal of providing farmers market managers, vendors, and volunteers with information and guidance to understand the characteristics of their customer base, to learn how to build a brand worthy of community support, and to stay competitive in a rapidly evolving food scene. The first webinar in January was about strategic surveys. Today is about branding. And in March, the focus is on thinking like a retailer. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But first, let's start by talking about branding. Our presenters today are Copper Alvarez, Executive Director of the Big River Economic and Agricultural Development Alliance. That's the nonprofit organization that operates Red Stick Farmers Market and Main Street Market in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Copper is also Vice President of the Board of Directors for Farmers Market Coalition. We'll start today's webinar with branding strategist Pam Knights, owner of Pam Knights Communications, a full-service marketing communication business based in Vermont. Pam brings more than 25 years of marketing experience to farm, food, lodging, agritourism, and small businesses in Vermont, New Hampshire, and beyond. Pam began promoting the local food movement in the early 1990s. She co-founded the nationally recognized Vermont Fresh Network while working as a director of public relations and special events for the New England Culinary Institute. So first, just a few housekeeping items. We have everyone on mute today so you can hear our presenters better, but we do want to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, you can use the questions box over on the right of your screen. I'll be watching those throughout the presentation, and we'll hold time at the end of the call for questions, but you can add those questions in anytime you'd like. If you have any problems seeing the screen or hearing us, you can also use that chat. We want to make sure the technology is working well for you, and you'll get a follow-up after this webinar with some additional resources. So look for an email with lots of helpful links as well as a survey about today's webinar. You'll be hearing from us a few more times after the webinar. So if everybody's ready, let's talk about branding. My husband is an artist and a graphic designer, and he's done several logos for clients. And one of the things I've observed as a marketing consultant is that often when people talk about a brand, they think only about the kind of work that John does, the design of a logo. A logo that represents your business well is an important part of your brand, but it's just one part. So, for example, here's a brand you might have seen before. When you see the golden arches, do you think of a quiet, relaxing dining experience? Do you think, I am going to get an amazing salad with local artisanal vegetables? McDonald's has spent a lot of money over the decades telling us what kind of business they are, so that now when you see the golden arches, you know exactly what to expect and what not to expect at McDonald's. When you see the Whole Foods logo, it's shorthand for a different kind of experience. You probably have associations with their logo in part because of what Whole Foods has advertised to you, but also in part because of the way they run their business. Shopping at Whole Foods feels very different from, say, the aisles of Walmart, right? All those decisions about how they operate their business, from the products they stock, to their pricing, to their customer service, is part of what gets associated with their logo so that it becomes shorthand for their brand. And then you compare that to Walmart, which is all about price in everything from their ads to their store signs, so their brand is shorthand from something completely different. So we'll turn it over to Pam Knights to talk about branding and the role it plays in communicating your vision. And Pam, is it thawing up there in Vermont?
No, it's snowing.
Again.
It's getting a little warmer, but we're getting plenty of snow. Good afternoon. Knowing how busy everyone is, I thank you all for choosing to spend the next hour with us talking about one of my favorite topics, brand development, for one of my favorite places to purchase local foods, farmers markets. With plenty of snow here in Vermont, we're happy to have access to winter markets and root vegetables, but are all anxiously awaiting the return of warmer weather, spring greens, fiddleheads, and asparagus. However, winter provides many of us with the downtime needed to look more closely at our branding and our messaging. In today's webinar, I will be talking about the following topics, each in as much detail as our time allows, with time for some questions at the end of the presentations. There's a lot of competition in the local foods marketplace today. It's more important than ever to have a strong brand and to be able to differentiate yourself from the competition. I'm going to go over the role of branding, branding basics, your target audience, which, by the way, is not just your customer base. It's your vendors, it's your community partners, potential sponsors. Talk about how to position yourself through messaging and visuals to create a strong brand, to give you the leverage you need to be able to professionally approach these partners who can help you in fundraising and growing your market. And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about branding because I have a sense some of you will feel like, oh, I really need to start over. I talked a little bit about, competition. It's very real. There are many, many places to purchase fresh foods now, which is wonderful, but we need to grow the customer base. Our job, all of us, is to educate people, consumers, about the benefits of buying local foods at your farmers markets. Enhancing the shopping experience is all part of that. Children is a wonderful place to start. If they are saying to their parents, let's go to the farmer's market this morning or this afternoon instead of the local grocery store, then they're going to make that a regular part of their shopping experience, especially if there are activities, sponsored activities for kids at the markets. We're going to talk about defining your unique selling points. That's how you're going to differentiate yourself from your competition, tell your stories, build your brand, and be able, once again, to be seen as an important community resource that is worthy of funding and support beyond just market sales. And farmers markets are the only place where shoppers have access to multiple farmers in one location all at the same time. That really is the calling card, what differentiates farmers markets from other local food venues. John Deere, I tried to find an agricultural emblem icon that you all might relate to. They have been around for years. They've been using the green and gold deer with the slogan, "Nothing runs like a deer." They are more than a brand. They are a promise to their customer base. They make a psychological connection with their equipment, with their product. Their visual evokes an emotional response. You want to develop authority and credibility. An honest brand is a trusted brand. It's important for farmers markets to create a memorable and recognizable identity. and I will be repeating this throughout, you need to connect with people on an emotional level. It's important to not only instill pride and professionalism in your organization, but in the people who support your market. They want to be a part of an organization that appears to be doing well, that knows their identity and their mission. You want to communicate who you are and what you stand for. Your personality needs to come through in your brand. You're inspiring people to be part of your work and to support you. This serves as a foundation for consistent imaging across all forms of your communications. This is a brand-raising triangle that I found on Big Duck Smart Communications website that shows that it comes from the top on down, and there's a lot of work to be done at the organizational level. This is where your board, cross-section of your customer base, and vendors come together to talk about your vision and your mission that includes your values and your objectives. It talks about the audience, the positioning, and the personality. This won't happen in an afternoon. This is hard work. This is where you really need to focus. Then that work will inform your visual identity and the messaging that you come forward with to create your, identity. Then that is translated out over the web, in print, on air, as ambassadors, everyone involved with your market going out and talking to other people, and across mobile platforms. It's very important to be compatible on a smartphone or on a tablet these days. That market is growing at a rapid rate. So we talked about this work that has to be done at the organizational level. These are some samples of mission statements that I found when doing some research for this presentation. You'll find that a lot of the objectives and values are a common thread throughout, that farmers markets provide access to locally grown foods. They're a vibrant community gathering place. It's a place to access healthy food, to promote sustainable living practices, offering educational programs, to build a strong community. So this is something that I think needs to be displayed prominently on a homepage of a website for a farmer's market. Not for all businesses, but where you are trying to integrate into your communities, this is an important part of your branding, your mission. As I mentioned earlier, the audience is not just your customer base. Your vendors, your craftspeople are very important. They are also your audience. In a good marketing strategy for a market, I would definitely recommend featuring your vendors and, engaging them in every way that you can. You wouldn't have a market without your vendors. Customers, look at your shopper radius. What's the competition within that radius? You don't want to compete with other activities that are very strong within the community at the same time that you offer your market. Have your volunteers do some spot surveying. How did people hear about your market? Where are they coming from? Are they first-time visitors, etc.? Community partners, really sit down and strategize a list. What are kindred kind of organizations in your area that have to do with health, that have to do with food, that have to do with education? Culinary schools, high schools, and colleges are very strong, as are the farm-to-school programs. They are real natural fits, I feel, for farmers markets. Volunteers are the backbone of many, many markets, and I think it's important to articulate how volunteers can help the market, whether it be in terms of being on the ground at a market or donating or making their services available in kind. If you need a new sandwich board, there are people out there who are carpenters who would help do it, places out there that would donate the lumber. and so on. Graphic designers who will help you create your visuals. So don't be afraid to ask. Here's a sample of volunteers at the market done by the items needed and how to get in touch with somebody to sign up for your market. So you really want to make this, I think, clear on your website that you are interested in having volunteers at your market. Unique selling points. I would recommend that you get together with your board and a cross-section of your audiences, various audiences, and get some flip charts and do a SWOT analysis. That's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And just brainstorm and have a page for each and just get them out there. You'll be focusing on your strengths and your emotional attributes, that both physical and emotional, that will appeal to your customer base. What's the story behind your market? That's the story behind your vendors. The location, number of years, what makes you unique? You need to pinpoint these items and incorporate them into your messaging. The benefits and impacts to the community really need to be brought to the surface if you're going to be going out and asking people to support the markets. There's the social, there's the economic, agricultural, health, and educational benefits. There are a lot of ways that markets integrate into the community, and it's your jobs to articulate this. A good market is not only an economic engine, it is also a social gathering place which builds the community. External branding, that's going to be more of your visuals, your messaging. You want to get those unique selling points, that USP, defined into bullet points that you can carry across all forms of your communications. These need to appear in your print, on your websites, in your descriptions. You need to be consistent. I would also recommend putting your website and Facebook addresses on everything that you put out there. Make yourselves really accessible to people. I've just put some sample bulleted items on the side here where you know, you're telling people at a glance, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind, at a glance, because people are not going to spend a lot of time reading your materials. They've got to get it at a quick look. The visual identity. We all think of that in terms pretty much as starting with a logo. I have a few samples here. You also create a color palette, a font that needs to be consistent. We'll talk a little bit more about taglines. And you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Do some research. If you don't want to look like the market next door, you want to stand out. This first one is a Vermont market, and you know, I talked to them. They understand I'm using this example. I don't think it's a good one. To me, it says this is a craft fair. They're selling pottery. That's the main thing I get from here. The Brattleboro Farmers Market is in a very thin font. You shrink this down to business card size, you're not going to be able to read that. It's not very distinctive. It doesn't do a good job from my perspective. Here next to it is the Vermont Farmers Market Association logo, which I absolutely love. And I think that, you know, it's got personality. It says at a glance what is going on, bringing fresh food to you. And a lot of small markets in our state, if they don't have a logo of their own, they'll say the name of their farmers market, I'm a proud member of this Vermont Farmers Market, and use that logo. This Bridgeton Farmers Market logo is simple, and a good logo should be simple and memorable. It's got the brown earth. It's growing something. At a glance, you can tell what they're doing. I love this Cape Ann Farmers Market. It's got the fish, and yet it's incorporating the vegetables. I put in this one that the kids did. I think you can do a ton with, you know, asking elementary school children or, you know, any age school kids to do their idea of what a farmer's market looks like, and you can get great visuals from that. You can do a whole promotion in your community, creating a logo from what kids can bring forward for visual elements. Taglines and slogans. Sticky, it should be a short and memorable kind of sticky phrase that you want to permeate somebody's thinking and speak to their emotional needs. I wanted to come up with some good food-related, very old, tried and true brand slogans. I think you probably heard these. Campbell's soup is good food. Wonder Bread. I don't agree with all of these. Helps build strong bodies 12 ways. Nobody doesn't like it like Sara Lee. These are old, and they stand out in many people's minds. There are several more, like A Diamond is Forever. Don't leave home without it, American Express. Melts in your mouth, not in your hands, M&M's. Just do it, Nike. Where's the beef, Wendy's. The Ultimate Driving Machine, BMW. These stick in people's minds. A lot of work goes into creating a good tagline. Again, it's not something that's done overnight. It should be honest. It needs to be original and unique to your brand. It needs to reflect your personality. And it needs to focus on the benefit to the customer and be short. It needs to be 3 to 7 words. Memorable and succinct. So that's something to give a lot of thought to. Brand management. Once you've brought these pieces together, you need to carry them through all of your strategic planning and marketing. It's most powerful, the brand, when it combines that internal identity with the external imaging that we talked about back in that triangle. It's got to become part of your marketing strategy. It's got to be part of everything in your organization, and it needs to reflect your core values. It's got to be authentic. That's critical. And the ambassadors for the market are your employees, your board members, your volunteers, your vendors. They've got to embrace this core brand message, and they've got to be able to articulate it to all the people they meet. It's got to be consistent across all forms of your internal and external communications. And it will create trust between the organization and the external audience, and it'll pave the way for you to create partnerships, fundraising, and fundraising opportunities. And again, I will talk about the emotional, and I will also talk about the importance of brand consistency. How many times have you seen a logo look one way and a website look another, or printed materials look yet another way? Consistency is the only way you're going to drive that brand home. Here's an example of a really nice logo with the Billerica, Massachusetts Farmers Market. And then if we go and we take a look at their website, their logo is at the very bottom here, and hardly any of the colors, maybe this olive green, shows up anywhere on this website. There's a complete disconnect from my perspective. I'll go back again. Here's a better example. This is a farmer's market in, well, we'll see again when we get there. And they do a much better job with color, carrying the color through, carrying the brand through. A visual is very important. So we're going to talk, just want to make sure, okay, about fundraising through Friends of the Market programs. You've got to have, in your messaging, you've got to have the ask, the call to action. It's very important that you articulate your needs in a specific way. You can ask for help from volunteers or organizations by defining the specific tasks, the fundraising goals. There's nothing wrong with having that jar out at the market saying, please donate towards our new banner. We need to raise $250. That's a very attainable goal. When you do that, you celebrate it. It gives you something to talk about over all areas of your outreach and the buzz that you create through social and email marketing, etc. So Friends of the Market programs are really a great way to bring people in to support the market. I'm afraid a lot of people think that you all just do this magical work setting up these great markets, you go buy your produce, and it's done. Well, it's not done. There's a ton of work that has to go into creating a vibrant market. And if it's going to grow and it's going to offer more to the community, it requires that you all reach out and ask for some money and help from the people within your community. They'll buy in. They'll feel much more part of what it is that you are doing and send their friends. You need to communicate regularly with these friends. You need to recognize them on your website. You need to, really show them how valuable they are to your success. Here's some examples. They do a good job of showing the friends that they have a Friends of the Market program and being, only $10, join today. However, if I click, I should be able to click any part of this and get to the donation button. I obviously cannot. It's not working. That's not going to do you any good at all. Learn more. Nope, I can't learn anymore. So you've got to make sure that your websites function properly. It's really critical. Here's another example. Donate. They show how you can donate. This one I was going to show later, actually, but they, I'll just show you since we're there. Can't donate. There's no mechanism to donate. It's not doing them one bit of good. But here's how you can become a volunteer. They do a very good job of explaining that. So there's some really good things on this website as well. All right, here's good representation and follow through. Memberships, and this is right on their friends page. They show exactly how different levels of becoming a friend, join, buy now. It's right there. You can make your donation right from the website. You've got their attention. Now is the time to ask them, facilitate their donation. Very important that things work on your website. I'll move along. Sponsorship opportunities, business support through sponsorships. A really critical way for all of you to think about marketing and cross-marketing your organizations. You can go to various larger businesses in your communities, banks, whatnot. They will have the resources. They also have the staff, marketing people who can help to get the word out about your markets, partnerships, sponsoring certain events. Make it specific for them how they can help you. They can also help you from in kind. They can do printing on your posters. They can help with your website development. There's a lot of things that they can sponsor for you. You want to recognize your sponsors. I think this, in doing the research that I had for this presentation, is the best website that I came across in terms of how they present their information and how they follow through. These are their premier sponsors. They're in-kind partners. They make it very clear on the website that they're there. Here, this is what I show on my visual, but this is where they give further recognition to their sponsors with their logos. Here, if you want to consider being a sponsor, they give you different levels and how to contact the market manager. And lastly, I'm just going to mention a little bit about rebranding. I brought up the Cape Ann Farmers Market logo earlier, which I really liked with the fish hanging down. They have changed that. I don't know when or how, but they did a very good job of integrating their new logo into the look of their website. Here it is with a chicken on a tractor pulling vegetables in a boat. So that is their new logo. They've obviously rebranded. But you want to focus on the internal branding work in that triangle. That's the critical place to begin. You don't just sit down and say, I think I'm going to have a new look and logo today. It's a process, and you really need to give it a lot of careful consideration. Craft your unique selling points. Test out your new mission statement and your visuals on a focus group and selected trusted customers. Don't just because you like it think everyone else is going to like it. Work with a professional. They can be in-kind donations, as I said before. So it's, small budgets don't mean that you don't have access to doing things in a professional manner. Update all of your online and print materials and develop a campaign to roll this out. Celebrate your new image. Make it an event. Create a buzz on social media and do a press release. Email and print in your print newsletters. Talk about it. Thank the people who helped you make it possible. And launch it at the start of a new season or a benchmark sort of time in the life of the market. So again, it's an occasion, it's an event. And be sure it's true to your organization and is all that you'd like it to be, since you don't want to just you don't want to be rebranding every year. It's something that is to be taken very seriously and will position you in the marketplace. So it's an important process for sure. Thank you very much, and now you'll be hearing from Copper.
Thanks so much. So before we switch over to Copper, I just want to remind everyone that you can enter your questions at any time over in that right panel. We'll be monitoring your questions, and we'll save some time at the end. So feel free to share those at any time. And we're now going to switch over to Copper, and as a reminder, she's the Executive Director of the Big River Economic and Agricultural Development Alliance, and she's going to tell us about a successful program that they've run.
It's great to be with all of you, and just as that was a great introduction, but you can see that our logo for our organization has the acronym there, BREDA, which we go by because it's a mouthful to say all of that other Big River Economic and Agricultural Development Alliance. So we actually are a network of public markets. Through these markets, we're supporting local Louisiana farmers. We're located in Baton Rouge. We have Red Stick Farmers Market, which is a typical outdoor farmers market and has several locations throughout the community. Our Main Street market is a downtown public market that is indoor facility with restrooms, restaurants, cafes, retail spaces. And our newest venture is Red Stick Mobile Farmers Market. It's taking local produce to lower access income areas in North Baton Rouge. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, let's see, trying to get this to change. Okay. We're going to talk about Farm to Tabletops, which is a great event that we put on every 3 years. It's an opportunity for us to use fundraising and tie it into local food education for children. We actually love to use this program to tell our story by creating tables that we use in Main Street Market. The children who are interested in art or talented in art will come to us every third summer, and we'll teach them about their local food system and then they will create their vision of what we taught them. The tables then they create the top, paint it, and then the tables are lacquered with a restaurant lacquer, and then we put a base on them, and they're used for the next 3 years in our market. So our customers who are eating with us at the farmers market on Saturdays, and our customers during the week who come for breakfast or lunch, enjoy seeing what the children think about their local food system, and it actually helps them, our customers, think about the local food system. Our downtown market is actually the site of the Red Stick Farmers Market. For every Saturday we have the farmers market there with Main Street. So the other thing about this project, it helped us combine those two markets. How does Main Street Market fit with Red Stick Farmers Market? Growing the program has been a lot of fun for us. We do it every 3 years because it's pretty labor intensive. We bring in an art educator who works with the children who already have talent but maybe not understanding about how to get something on a big piece of wood. And usually each time we do it, we'll incorporate another little item, and in 2010 the kids decided they wanted to do a permanent mural, and they created this farmers market look of what they thought about our downtown market in Baton Rouge. Now, Baton Rouge doesn't really have all those skyscrapers, but we love the fact that they had a big vision for us. One good thing about this program is it finally gave us a chance to really put on a major gifts campaign. As a farmer's market, people think of you as a lot of karmas going on, and they don't realize that with all that money, it's changing hands. The organization that runs the farmer's market also needs money. And we had had difficulty in telling our story to corporate donors. So when we realized how popular the tabletop program was becoming, we decided to try giving our corporate donors a chance to be benefactors. This is an inside of a brochure that we take to a corporate donor. We sit down, and it gives us a chance to tell our story, let them know who we are and what the program is about. We've also found that donors are more excited about giving to programs that include children. So that's helped us as well. The media seems to love this program, and every 3 years we'll have our television network saying, can we come to the market and talk about the tabletops? Magazines and the newspaper, they'll come down to the farmers market. They'll take pictures of the kids sketching. They'll do things that, for them, it's a human interest story. Gives them a chance to promote what we're doing, and also, in the long run, it gives them a chance to understand why it's important to publicize and promote a local food system. With the program, we want the children to really understand their local food system. So what we do with our kids is we'll take them to a farm, and several different farms usually, and they'll get exposed to what vegetables look like in the ground before they're picked. Sometimes we'll let them do some shelling in a pea shelling machine. They'll collect eggs from a hen house, or they'll feed some of the animals. Some of these children have never been on a farm, so it really puts them in touch with how their food is grown, and we like that part of it. The other thing about the children getting to know their local food system, then after they've been on the farm, or they've been to the market, or they've had a part of the cooking class, they're able to actually create their sketches, and it's really always amazing to see what they come up with after they've been on a farm. This is the cooking class we did last summer with our kids. They all helped make salsa that day, and when they finished, they got a chance to take home the salsa, so they each had a jar of salsa. We found that anytime you can put kids to work in a cooking class participating, that then they're going to be a lot more eager to try new ingredients. So that's always been a big hit when we put on the market. You can notice in the back of this picture the tabletops from the previous year are there, and we call them tabletops, but they really turn into tables, and that's part of our Main Street Market inside venue, and you can see how if you're eating at Main Street Market and you see Louisiana oysters on a table, or you see a hen, or you see a big tomato, you'll understand that that has something to do with Louisiana's local food system. It's been great to hear the success stories and the comments from parents and children alike about how much this program has meant to them through the years. The kids who are participating are talented in art, and often a visual artist does not have a chance to perform on a stage. So for 3 years we give them a stage, and we've heard kids who come back and again to the market and bring their friends or their family, and the slogan seems to be, meet me at the peach table, or whatever their table happens to be called, and that's been very successful. One of the things we like to do is recognize our youth artists at the end of the summer, and this is a big event which happens on a Saturday morning. The mayor comes down to give certificates. We do a jazz parade. We include the minister from next door, the priest from the Catholic Church, who will bless the tables. It becomes a big event. The kids receive a print of their table, and also a certificate from the mayor. It's a great opportunity for kids to shake the hand, have their picture made with the mayor, and that makes them feel really good about what they've done. The other part about that is we really like to have our events on Saturdays or at any market to tie in with what our story is. So by having this fundraiser and its recognition event, we bring the donors who participated, they're part of the parade. We get a chance to just thank everybody and remind everybody what the story is, why it's important to support local foods. Again, other things that we've done and found successful is to have your fundraiser at the market. This is a view of tailgating throwdown. We're in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is home of the LSU Tigers, and during football season, that's the only thing practically that anyone talks about. So you can see where we set up a tailgating team competition, and in the background is our Main Street Market, which is the building with the green awnings, and the farmers market set up just outside. So we've tied together the fundraiser with both of our markets and trying to encourage people to think about how much the market means to them, and then becoming supportive of the market by being at the fundraiser. The other thing we've done, which I think Pam mentioned, is that in our mobile farmers market, we're on the road. We have a big trailer that's wrapped in its logo, and we're always putting out our signs that encourage people to recognize our funders who supported this. The nice thing about that is people feel like, oh, well, if the bank supported it or if the city supported it, this must be really something special. And other people who might be with corporations or businesses will see that and want to be part of the program as well. So we get calls just from the market being out there and people seeing our donor sponsorships. If you're interested in a little bit more about the Tabletops program, we do have a website, tabletopsbr.org, and it gives you a chance to look at the different parts of that program. It also is where we do our online auction. Part of the fundraiser is selling the old tables as we welcome the new tables to the market. And the old tables are on bid at an online auction. We actually start a bidding price of around $200, and we have a Buy Me Now. It's very exciting for kids when people actually click the Buy Me Now, and that is a $2,500 donation to the market. And that's been happening almost every year we've done this. So the children who are artists can really see that their work is valued, and that they've also learned a little something about their local food system. If you have any other questions, you can contact me at on our website, or you can ask a question here. It's been nice talking to you about a way to bring your brand and your fundraiser together.
Thanks, Copper. Thanks for your presentation and for making me hungry. Your photos now make me want some Louisiana oysters. I don't know if anybody else is looking at those and their mouth is watering. If anybody has questions, now would be a good time to type those into the question box over on the right. We have a couple, so we'll jump right into those. We had a question from Carmen Patterson who wanted to know, is it better to start from scratch or to make improvements if you don't like what you already have in the way of your logo? So anybody have any thoughts about either tweaking from a logo you don't love or just dumping it out and starting over?
Well, this is Pam, I would say that it would depend. I would have to really see what the logo looked like, how it tied into the mission, how old it was. You know, there's a lot of considerations that you would look at, but I would again go back to the mission and back to your objectives and values and personality. And does it speak to who you are as a market? Has it been well received? Does it stand out? Logos get old. I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with moving on, but there is a transition that needs to be done smoothly. And so there may well be elements you want to carry through, or you want to start entirely over. Usually you would start pretty much over, but I wouldn't necessarily start over with your mission. So it's just, I think it's pretty much a case-by-case basis in order to give you a real answer to that.
And building on that, you mentioned logos get old. I think, you know, we've all seen examples of major corporations that either tweak or completely redo their logos. How often do you recommend people go back and take another look at their branding, whether it's their logo or their colors or that foundational work of their mission?
Well, I think it really depends. If you've got a winner like Coke, you know, Coca-Cola, they have the same look and feel they had when they started. So it depends on how strong your brand is from the beginning. Oftentimes people who are changing their brand haven't got it figured out, or else in the beginning, you know, as they've grown, or they have changed and added a lot of new elements or products to their services to their business, and they need to grow with that. So, you know, a good logo that you like, that works, I wouldn't necessarily change it because 7 years is up or 5 years is up. But one thing I will mention is that the life of a website is not as long as we wish it all was. You know, 2 to 3 years, and you really need to be thinking about a new website. So the life of our materials they aren't as long as many of us would love them to be. So you need to revisit your branding on a regular basis and make tweaks as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just build on that and say, boy, you know, 10 years ago, iPhone didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist. I don't think any of us were really even, you know, knowledgeable about social media coming. So if your logo wasn't designed for good viewing on a phone or on social media, that really changes everything that it needs to do. A question from Rebecca Landis, more about the fundraising side of things. She says most markets are not 501c3s, and most IRS agents are reviewing are not trained to allow donations. So what about marketing donations through a partner organization instead? If you want that to be your path to the call to action, either of you have thoughts about how to make the donation function work?
Well, that may be where you would want to form a Friends of the Market group, and they could either find, if they didn't want to become a 501c3, they could possibly find a fiscal agent to serve as their 501c3. But a Friends of the Market group is often the route that some of the markets take that are not connected to being a 501c3.
Okay. And that one housekeeping question that came in was a question about whether you'll be able to get a copy of the presentation. And so for anybody else who had that same question, in the follow-up emails that you get, you'll get a survey about how today's webinar met your needs. You'll also get some helpful links, and you'll get a link to the presentation materials. So if you want to go back and refresh yourself on any of this, or you're not a very fast note taker, not to worry, you'll be able to have all of that. Wondering if either of you have any examples of particularly good or bad branding in food companies, things you might just sort of quickly point to as things we'd all know and recognize, where you might be able to learn a lesson. If not, I'm not trying to play Stump the DJ, so we can move on. If anything jumps to mind, let's come back to that. But otherwise, I think, Pam, you mentioned this in your talk about not wanting to look like the guy down the road. How do you compete with either other food-related nonprofits in terms of fundraising, or any other nonprofits? What are some pointers to keep in mind as you're positioning yourself as different from the other options that people might have in their gifts?
Well, I think it goes back to defining your area of business and looking at the competition that you have within that area and doing your homework by checking out what similar food-related markets are looking like and what they're offering, and then going back to, again, what makes you unique and different. And it often means going back into your story and the story of the vendors. And you know, it's interesting because I work with a lot of different food-related businesses, and these are things that they encounter every day, and they don't jump out at them necessarily. And we'll be talking and going through these exercises of what are your strengths and your weaknesses, and you know, the emotional ties that people might have with your, and something they'll mention will become a real nugget to me, and I'll be like, oh. And so to have other people who are not as involved in the organization working with you will be able to help you see some things about yourself that are just common every day to you, where those things can be, you know, brought to the surface as something that really is different and unique and needs to be brought out in your messaging. So look at your radius and then see what is true to your mission. There may be other organizations that are doing fundraising, but you want to be different. You want to tie, I think everything needs to tie back in large part to education, and Copper talked a lot about what they're doing is educating their community and educating kids. And kids have families that come and they shop, and those are your next group of farmers market shoppers. And so to spend time on education is really, and in creative ways, I think is the best area for growth for farmers markets.
Great. And one last question, I'll give this one to Copper. Christine Easley asks, if your markets are run by a nonprofit organization, how do you decide between branding of the market and using your organization's logo and mission when you're doing the outreach? So when do you talk about the individual markets versus the umbrella organization?
Well, that's really interesting because we're right now in a big strategic planning process of determining just that thing. Breda is not a very easy a recognizable brand. So we do tend to talk about Red Stick Farmers Market the most because our mission goes back to actually having the opportunity to give direct sales opportunities to small-scale farmers and kind of keeping people on their farms. So we want to, we were named 17 years ago by an organization to be the fiscal agent, and so that's Bretta, and we're trying to decide now not how to change our name because we do want to keep Bretta as the nonprofit name, but how to be able to really market. So it comes back to who is your customer, and most of our customers are the people that shop with us at our different markets. So we want to always be putting Red Stick Farmers Market out there as the brand. But when we're talking to our funders, they need to know about Bretta. So we do talk about Bretta being the umbrella organization. But that is a tricky question. I'd love to hear what Pam would have to say about that.
Well, I think you did a good job addressing it, Copper, and that there are umbrella organizations that oversee like in your case, you have the mobile farmers market, you have the physical markets downtown, and the programs for kids. And so if they all can tie in to the umbrella organization and be, that's part of the messaging that, we are a subsidiary of the umbrella organization, and that there is some tie-in in terms of visuals. I think that's often helpful too.
Excellent. Well, I think that's going to be where we have to leave it. Thanks so much to both of you, Pam and Copper, for sharing your information, and thanks everyone for joining us today. I hope you'll mark your calendar for the third webinar in this series, which is coming up on March 19th. That'll be Your Edge in a Changing Marketplace, Thinking Like a Retailer. The presenter will be Eric Barrett from Ohio State University Extension, and the moderator will be Brian Moyer from Penn State University Extension. Farmers markets are no longer the only place for shoppers seeking locally grown foods. It is your market's brand, the products, the shopping experience, are they all keeping pace with an evolving marketplace? Learn about retailer strategies to understand and promote your best assets to make customers feel special and keep them coming back. This session will offer a variety of strategies to help put your market in the spotlight and grow customer loyalty to keep you on the cutting edge of the changing local food landscape. I recently spent a week at the North American Farmers Direct Marketing Association convention where Eric was a presenter. He is a smart, energetic, enthusiastic expert. You're not going to want to miss that hour. So put that on your calendar, March 19th, and join Farmers Market Coalition and Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture for the third session to help you be more successful. Thanks so much for joining us. Look for that survey as soon as this webinar is over. You'll also get some follow-up emails, and have a great afternoon.